2017. Then, if you remember, I indicated that all the lieutenant colonels and downwards of CI, but that also includes our counter and security intelligence members, have to apply on the e-vetting system for a certificate before the 31st of December, where after the vetting investigations, especially the ones for secret and top secret, will be prioritized, and then that will obviously start after the closure date of 31 December. Then there was a concern raised that the designated firearm officers should also receive priority. The SAPS designated firearm officers, together with internal auditors and procurement and service termination officials, have been prioritized for vetting during the next financial year. And then I just need to report that designated firearm officers also include the members of the Central Firearm Register at head office. They will also form part of this initiative. Then there was a question, is there a vetting master plan? Do we realize the seriousness of vetting too many bad apples in the SAPS, lack of trust in SAPS and CI by the community? Although not referred to as a master plan, there is a vetting revamp strategy currently being implemented within SAPS by the division CI. The strategy includes the following. The short-term sub-strategy will focus on addressing the vetting backlog at the vetting evaluation and polygraph sections and the security vetting panel of the Division Crime Intelligence. So firstly, the implementation of the e-vetting system, the electronic system, there were still manual applications that needed to be finalized. So obviously, if you have to start, there was a backlog, especially at head office level, where all the evaluations and the polygraph investigations is done. To eliminate this backlog, the Divisional Commissioner and General Zimo instructed that from the provinces, we take the investigators and we deploy them to assist with the evaluation of those assessments to attend to the backlog. So that's the first part of the strategy. Then the medium-term strategy will focus on interventions pertaining to the vetting of prioritized environments such as the ministry, all SMM members of the SAPS, our Tambu members, all crime intelligence personnel, but it will also include the development of policies and standardized operational procedures for vetting and addressing the critical human and physical resources needed to achieve quick wins. That will also be done during the medium term. And then the long-term strategy will focus on interventions with regard to the function, organization, and post structure of the vetting function of the division on all levels, as well as training physical resources, and then very importantly, maybe a retention strategy for our skilled and experienced vetting personnel. It's a known fact that these people are getting huge salaries outside. And then the last issue that we took down when we were here is on the vetting issues. Are there any other processes to ensure the protection of sensitive information if a person doesn't have a security clearance yet? And then, in line with the provision of Section 70 and 71 of the SAPS Act 1995, members who work in sensitive environments are required to take or sign an oath of secrecy before assuming their responsibility. So that's the other measure you can implement if someone in the meantime doesn't have a security assessment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope we attended to all the questions.
Thank you. General, anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Maybe just on the vetting, which is also part and parcel of the turnaround. It's the capacitation of the vetting section. I think you have more than 100,000 employees who must be vetted, but the capacity of the vetting section is not coming close to match the ratio. So one of the priorities that we'll be looking at is reviewing that particular capacity. And maybe as part and parcel of strengthening the controls, I think I have already instructed the Deputy National Commissioner for HRM to review the recruitment policy, the appointment policy, as well as the promotion policy to reflect vetting. Our intention in future, no one should enter the organization without vetting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, if there's no further additions from the SAP delegation, we will immediately go to questions. There is one patent matter that's been left out of the presentation, and I'll ask other members to reflect to that in terms of the disciplinary steps with regard to certain members of CI. I'll ask the other members to deal with that. I've got specific 2 questions to the new National Commissioner. The one deal related to vetting, and I think it's a matter that we've raised now in our budget recommendations of this year. Apart from vetting, the issue of lifestyle audits. We believe from the committee side it's critical in certain sensitive areas and even in the top management that lifestyle audits should be part of the process, and maybe to get the comments of the National Commissioner, what is his view on this, and how can we ensure that we implement this to ensure that there can be no question asked about any top SAPS general. That's critical. The second issue was, I was yesterday briefed by a member of SCOPA with relation to the appearance of SAPS before SCOPA on Wednesday, and we will get an update on that process in the next 2 weeks. But I just want to know from the National Commissioner side, as a new National Commissioner, there's a lot of emails in your inbox, issues, legacy issues, unfortunately, you need to deal with. Now, the issues before SCOPA dealt with procurement issues from 2011 till 2017 in the CETA environment. Can this committee also get assurance from the National Commissioner that there will be an effort, especially in the procurement environment, to ensure that if there's any wrongdoing, there will be steps taken immediately. If there is criminal matters to be pursued, it will be done. But also then to ensure from an internal audit perspective and also from counter-intelligence side to ensure that there can't be any corruption taking place. Because the dilemma is for you as National Commissioner going forward, you must deal with new issues, you must focus on crime, but you must also deal with these legacy issues. And the danger is that the new police management will be swamped by the legacy issues. You will then lose focus, and you know, your inbox on that issue is big. So maybe just to get your view on that, how can we ensure also that there's assurance for the committee that you will deal with those issues? Honorable Molabatsi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, maybe one other matter that didn't come up is the issue of Brigadier Pell. Tell us about her. Where is she? What is happening to her as we speak? Because it will remain a thorny issue in this committee. My next one, I don't know if that was a question. On your Uber and taxi violence threats, the issue of few arrests was not responded to. And you spoke of 15,209 early warnings. My concern is, do you get adequate responses? My last one. Have you had a situation where even after appealing, an applicant is still denied security clearance? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Molabatsi. Honorable Mula.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for your presentation. In slide 8, you are talking about in supporting the detectives. You said there's a task team that was established. When was this task team established? Is it functioning or what? My second question is about Brigadier Petle, because last time when we were here, we're having the information that she is going to France. So can you please tell us, did he went to that tour or what? And all about the investigation about General Litwaba, the outcomes and everything. That's what we want to know. My third question is on slide. What is this slide? Is this one that says the minister has instructed that the feasibility study on the organizational, functional, and post structure of the division crime intelligence must be finalized by 31st of December 2017. Today is the 1st of December 2017. How far are you about this finalization? Do you think, are you going to meet this deadline? And what I want to know is that when we come back in January, are we going to get feedback for this? My last question, let me check. Let me stop here, I will come on. Oh, my last question is that one of the, what is this that I asked, that the festive season, you said the General Stole it's combined with the SAPS.
Remember, we had it already on Wednesday from General Masumula.
Okay.
We already had that presentation.
Okay,
yeah.
because I asked that question, so I want what I wanted to know is not that you are telling us you are going to do this and that. I was asking that, do you have, thank you, Chairperson, that plan for festive season? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mula. Honorable Mabija.
Thank you, Chairperson. On slide number, I think it's number 9, the last bullet on personnel need. It is said there that additional personnel needed is approximately 3,000. I was just thinking to myself, what is the annual intake of the whole of SAPS? And in order to fill in this 3,000, what is the plan? How are you going to? I understand you must get approval first for the structural change and so on. But if it was to happen, because it definitely needs to happen, how do you see yourself going through in order to deal with this? And what does the 3,000 entail? Is it, if you could explain, or maybe it entails from being on the ground until an administrator in the office, or are they all critical and so on? And on slide number 19, where it says the minister's decision is final, that is in relation to the appeal. Or my question would be, what do we have here? Is it in some acts, or is it in regulations, or is it in some CI standard documents? Where do we find something of this nature? Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Marke, Honorable Bell.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. It's just three questions from my side. The first one relates to slide 8, and it's not strictly, I understand, an issue for CI to deal with directly. but it does speak very much to the issue here about repeat offenders, because the way to empower and equip these task teams to have the case evidence that they would need to motivate strongly for the denial of bail is with things like forensic evidence. And we had the DNA board reporting to the committee, was it Tuesday? Yeah, on Tuesday, about their having picked up on the shortage of DNA kits at police stations, which General Jula confirmed on Wednesday was certainly the case for the Western Cape. And the DNA board had also mentioned that the activation of task teams, as per, I think it was Regulation 9 of the DNA Act, has also not been done. So the system, the information referral and comparison network is not in place in order to then achieve this outputs. So my question is, when can we expect at least the activation of those provincial, and I think it's also meant to be cluster task teams, in order to receive and refer and make comparisons of hits that come from the National Forensic DNA Database, as well as when stations make arrests and they take those buccal samples, and then we can get more hits. We need the whole system to be in place in order to operate effectively. My second question relates to slide 20, which was the explanation around confidential security clearance. I might be having a slow morning mentally, but I was struggling to kind of get a grip and get to the nub of what was being explained, because what I got was a definition of what is meant by confidential, but not an explanation of what a confidential security clearance is. Because reading from what was given, the closest I could get was that a confidential security clearance would be a security clearance in which certain information about it is limited. So maybe just for my benefit, if that can be explained again, possibly a bit slower and a bit clearer, so we understand what the security clearance being confidential itself actually means. Of course, much of CI products would be confidential. That's understood. But how does that relate to security clearance for officers in particular? And then my third point, Chairperson, is I was grateful to get the clarification or the explanation that the physical security assessments relate not just to physical facilities, but also IT security, if I heard correctly. But that also then simultaneously makes me very nervous, because that means in both of those aspects that there's a reliance firstly on public works, who are not known to be the most optimal partner for any departments in government, and there's also then a reliance on CETA, who, as we've seen over the past week, have had some fingers and pies and fiddling leading to irrational procurements. So it's a mess. And also we know from the issue that the committee looked at a couple of months back with the break-in at the Hawks head office, there must have been a deficiency, at least in that security assessments for that facility, which created those vulnerabilities, and other break-ins at other institutions. Now, the point I've raised before, and that's I think I've asked before, but at the time I think I asked General Cruiser, who didn't really answer me, is the one way in which the SAPS can have more autonomy, or certainly more control in implementing or complying with the requirements, is if we have more devolved facilities for the SAPS. I know that there's 200 odd police stations that are devolved, which means that SAPS is not reliant on public works for any supply chain stuff that must happen in that regard. Is there a way, and can we look at a time frame for at least an incremental devolution of key facilities, so that in having the one division of the SAPS doing the physical security assessments and identifying the vulnerabilities that need to be addressed, you can also then yourselves actually fix and rectify them and not have to rely on public works where it'll get stuck in bottlenecks, the specs gets amended, so you end up with something you don't want or need, and we end up either at square one or even square -5. Thanks, Chair.
No, thanks, Chairperson. No, firstly, Chair, I think when it comes to our intelligence services in general in the country, it will be that I don't know whether intelligence services, our intelligence services are just immune from financial accounting. I'm taking that because I'm sorry, but you will pardon me, but I will have to refer to this. Because if I happen to read Jack Paul's book, particularly on SSA, on huge amount of money, which is taxpayers' money abused for personal gains and all that, without any accountability at all, even with our crime intelligence. When a person is gone, then only then you are told that so much money has been abused. But in the process, there is nothing that tells you that so much money allocated, then this money, this is how it has been spent. Though then it cannot be detailed to the committee, for the committee to account to Parliament, but I'm sure the commissioner, now we have got the commissioner. Not that everybody will be shocked to say, no, so and so then abused the money or slush fund of intelligence for his own benefit. I think there must be a tool that is actually developed in that, so that if, for example, the divisional commissioner has allocated so much resources, for example, to KZN and Western Cape, are we getting the cost-benefit effect of that money, of that resource, material resource that has been deployed there? Or it goes to the pocket of someone. So I think somewhere, that's why then, Chairperson, I'm saying, I'm benchmarking this with regard to that revelation by Jack Paul in that book, because that is real crime, that so much money of the taxpayers can just be abused because people are hiding behind secrecy clauses of intelligence. No, there must be something that is done there to actually then develop a tool that will actually ensure that any deployed funding resource, it goes to the actual purpose that it is meant for. So that is what, so that at that point, if you go to that feasibility study that is done there, because that feasibility study will be informed, will actually go with human requirements of human resource and also financial resources. Now, then, two, Chairperson, it will come to this. There is this question of reactive or investigative intelligence-driven processes. You know, I think, Chairperson, it will be important, particularly as the commissioner, national commissioner is here and the divisional commissioner is here, that if, for example, you take the situation here in Cape Town, the status of our intelligence crime intelligence capability in Western Cape, is it effective? Or yes, then crime intelligence service or division is indeed effective. But what is less effective is proactiveness on the side of response operational forces. I am raising that because you will recall that the Shobashobane massacre, intelligence was deployed there on time as an early warning. But then the proactive division simply decided to sit on information in order to allow extermination of people there. That was before 1994 or after 1994. Yes, it was after 1994. So that we can be able to determine these gaps, that where is the gap? Is the gap on the gathering aspect of intelligence, or the gap is at the proactive reactive units that are supposed to act on the early warning part? So that we don't get this thing when maybe the divisional commissioner is long gone, that no, there was early warning information given here, but so and so, because this is part and parcel of ill discipline that characterizes certain elements within our service, that undermines the whole good work that is done by dedicated good men and women in the service. I think time has come that we begin to know these things head on, to say, where is the gap? Is our crime intelligence status or capability in the Western Cape, for example, well beefed up, capable living up to the task, or the gap is on the proactive units that are supposed to actually effectively deal with this? Where is the problem? And also that goes even with the specialized units when it comes to reactive or investigative driven side. You'll recall, Chairperson, that when we were having a meeting with the Hawks were complaining that, no, look, at times we lack intelligence backup in our investigations. Say, for example, with these matters, for example, in KZN, you know, it is said to be political. And yes, I agree with that notion. But so that as the committee chairperson, we can then be able to see whether is that, because as I'm saying that, you know, that thing of Jack Paul, I am not saying that we need to focus on Jack, but it will tell me that if, for example, our crime intelligence is muzzled by certain layers of other intelligence structures, this committee must come to the rescue of our own crime intelligence to say, yes, we know that you are counted to the this joint intelligence structure and also the Committee of Parliament, but as the committee responsible for policing, where do we fit in the whole equation? And what our responsibility will be, because we cannot leave our crime intelligence to fry, to simply say, because maybe certain layer of intelligence is captured, then our own crime intelligence must then be made to fail because simply of that. That was where then, that's where then I'm coming from with this whole thing. Then lastly, Chairperson, is the question that Honorable Make has actually asked. You know, when the board, I believe the board is guided by certain regulations with regard to ministerial decision. Not that because maybe one is actually casting aspersions or doubts on maybe the current Minister of Police, but we are talking here of any minister that will take over. Because if then the minister can just wake up in the morning guided by no tool of law, that can actually undermine the object of this committee. Because the board can actually use the yardstick of law to say we have reached this conclusion. But then at a political level, the minister then takes just a political decision which is not informed by any law. What is the tool that guides the minister in the decision making? So that this committee will be clear that, yes, indeed, the decision that will be guiding the minister is guided by this particular law. So that when that law is actually then applied wrongly, the committee will actually be able to take the minister to task, rather than just simply leaving everything to the minister as if under this planet Earth, we are angels in heaven. No, there are no angels under the planet Earth. Thanks very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Ramatlakane and then Honourable Mulaki.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. And just a few from my side. To the General, the last time we met him, or personally when we met General Stolle, was not sitting on that chair. So congratulations on the, or belated congratulations on the task and the responsibility you have. And I think that the support is there. One thing that I must say as just an intro, General, the honesty is the best policy. With honesty, you're bound to get far, very, very far. And I want to leave it there. I'm leaving it there because I want to ask the question, Chair, and I'm a bit rusty, but if my memory serves me right, the last time we had this discussion, there was an issue that was outstanding. And that issue was who actually misdirected the committee with regard to the vetting issue of the general that was withdrawn, and then the vetting was withdrawn, and then he was basically sent back. That's the General Mukuchan. There was this issue that we were told that the lieutenant from Popo Limpopo is busy with that report, investigating that will come forward. I don't remember that feedback. Maybe Rusty, as I already indicated, that report was given. Somebody was not found having lied to the committee because it's a serious offense. You would remember that, Chair, we had spent a lot of time on that issue with the previous acting national commissioner as what happened, what's going to happen. Now, I am still not satisfied that we got to the bottom of that. What were the facts? Maybe General is not ready with this, but I don't know. We need to get closure on that issue. Were we misdirected? In other words, simple language is that somebody lied to the committee with respect to this issue, because it involved all the questions and the names that has been thrown around as who was doing what and who said what. Was this certificate signed? Was it authorized? All those questions has not yet finally got to the conclusion. Now I'm leaving it there because I still want to know, Chair, the closure of that. But quickly on the follow-up questions, General Stolle, you said that the capacity does not meet the ratio of the task at hand. But the question that you did not complete then is, what would be the interim plan to address that particular question that has already been identified? You say in the future we're not going to appoint anybody who's not vetted. This is a good one. But at the moment you have this backlog, you have this challenge. What is the holding arrangement in terms of addressing this problem? That's really the question in terms of that capacity. This can take you to the capacity of whether it's the CI capacity itself, but I just want to understand what, in fact, you did ask this question the last meeting. What are you going to do tomorrow? Given that you have this particular challenge, and you have people that are not vetted in the serious, sensitive position, what is going to constitute a plan going forward? Because if there is a disallowance of function on the sensitive area, and somebody is occupying that sensitive area, and that person is not vetted, then that means there must be some plan that we put in place to address that particular challenge. And that happens almost like immediate. given that you now have this kind of information. So the plan, what is the holding plan, General Sole, on this issue? I'm directing it to you because I want to also ask this question. What does it mean, the lapse mean, the lapse of security clearance mean, functional-wise? In the other words, is my clearance has lapsed yesterday. What am I going to do tomorrow? Am I going to continue as if nothing has happened? Now, I know you will say there is a waiting period that people must now start the process, but I'm asking, what if? You have not answered that question. And also, this whole thing about what does it mean? Does it mean you continue on that particular function? Or does it mean that you have to get someone else who is vetted to continue with that function? And that's now the lapse vet certificate. What is the top security? My simple understanding of a layperson is, once your security, you are not vetted, you are unable to perform, there's a disallowance to perform the function at a sensitive area. Full stop. In real life now, that we now know what the challenges and the challenge you have, General Stoladu spoke about, what is happening? What is this turnaround that we're talking about? Is turnaround because you have picked up some people who are vetted, moved those who are not vetted out of this position and put the people who are vetted in those sensitive positions? What does it mean really in real life mean? Because if indeed we're skating around this and you are continuing to violate the prescript, if Leonard continued to be in the position that he was today or yesterday and is not vetted, then you are violating the prescript. These people that are doing this function, are they all vetted? Are they all vetted? Now, I know that the minister had something to say about that the police will be vetted by the police. I think he shot down the issue about the assistance capacity of SSA, that's not going to happen. But in place of that, which was going to be a complementary strategy, that is out of the window, is no more an option. What, in practical terms, is being done to then augment what you call the lack of capacity in terms of it? But the vetting, but I'm talking functional. What's happening in the functional area? Maybe General we can also speak about this issue, because I want to know when we live here that this practical thing that are happening. You may, I don't know, the call-up that you normally have in terms of call-up or other people from various other provinces with that capacity. Is it on the card? Is it part of the plan or turnaround plan? Or is this being thought through? Or is it, Chair, if you understand where I'm coming from, I get frustrated with the explanation of procedure and system, because that does not talk to practical thing, what you do tomorrow, the functional area, what you must perform tomorrow in terms of personnel that is properly in fact qualified to do that particular job. So if I'm taking you back, my apology, but I'm not hearing. I'm hearing that that's what I'm asking this thing. And the general, acting general last time, the commissioner did not answer this question, what will happen tomorrow in the case of people who are not vetted. Now, luckily, I can ask it to you, General Stoll. In your new capacity, where the buck stops with you, now you can't duck it. You can't say you are acting. What's going to happen tomorrow in terms of this functional area? That's all I wanted to know, Chair. Thanks.
No written responses. Right. Honorable Mula and Honorable Bija, you indicated further questions before we go to the responses from General Sitole and his team.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Ramatlakala has read my mind because this is the question that I wanted to ask General Stoll. But I want to thank him when he says from now onwards they are not going to appoint people who doesn't have security clearance. It is a good decision because all this instability in SAPS is done by their mistakes. Because, Chairperson, they appointed people without checking the security clearance. And now, they are busy chopping and changing these people. You know, it's their mistake that they did that. That's what I was going to ask him. That are they going to suspend these people that are not having security clearance, or are they going to demote them, or are they going to take out them from their post and put them somewhere because of their mistakes? It's their mistake because they didn't. It's not the people's mistakes who doesn't have security clearance. That's what I was going to ask him because last I asked General Mutiv and he responded to me, but I was not happy about his response. So now, because you are a new national commissioner from the box, we want to hear from you that are you going to do chop and change or what are you going to do? Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Vijay, you're the last. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. If I understood well what is going on with this vetting thing, I should think because we committed a mistake from the beginning as SAPS of not vetting. So there are some who are vetted, there are some who are not. And those who are vetted, they can, their thing can expire. And when it has expired, is it not correct to have do we call it a window period, where we allow them to make applications so that they can keep on doing their good job, rather than saying because you are not vetted, we remove you, we demote you, whereas there are some people who came in without even a single vetting who are working. So I should think we need to desist from picking up on individuals, because this ruling, this government is a democratic government where we are equal. So we must be treated, people must be treated equally so. Because those whose vetting certificates have expired, they're even much more better compared to those who came in without a single vetting process. Thank you. I'm just pleading with you, Netcom, and congratulations, you are the Netcom, and I know you are going to make it, and I know you are going to put that is, everything is going to, the keys will go into the correct locks to lock the whatever. So congratulations, and do continue with your good work. Don't let us down, because we don't want to be dealing with manga businesses and so on. We want to work for the people of South Africa. I should think with, as a committee, we are tired of this hide and seeks of some individuals. Just do your job correctly so, without fear or favor, because we are, as a committee, sick and tired of coming here and be solving individual manga businesses going on. We are not here for manga business. We are here to work correctly for the people of South Africa. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, members. That is round one. Let's go to General Sitole and his team for the responses. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chair, and thanks for the questions which has been asked by honorable members. The approach that we're going to follow, I will take the strategic questions, and the operatives, they will respond to the operational questions. The first question by Honorable Chair relating to lifestyle audit. It's one of the high priorities for our turnaround, and the committee will see it running through a project. And it will be continuous, because if you do not continue with the lifestyle audit, then it has the likelihood of contaminating the clearance itself, or change the vetting status of a person. But at the same time, it has got a likelihood of opening loopholes for corruption. So we'll start it with a project, but it will run as a permanent exercise. The second question is relating to procurement questions, where we must give the assurance to the committee. I will just briefly relate on our experience with SCOPA and the loopholes that I have identified. Whenever there's any exercise or procurement process that has amounted to Section 34 of the Public Finance Management Act, then it becomes the center core of all inquiries and investigations. The first investigation that we then need to make sure it's done, we begin a Section 81(2) investigation of the Act. And we then also commission a liability investigation. Over and above a liability investigation, then we also need to commission a discipline regulation investigation. All of them, they need to run concurrently, because when people venture, whether it's an unauthorized expenditure, is corruption, fruitless expenditure, there's a conduct, there's an action, then there's an outcome. So the gap that we have identified is that the conduct sometimes, when you deal with the liability investigation, it gets left out. And when we went back to our areas of operations, we conducted a post-mortem analysis into what SCOPA has pointed out. And there's an action plan that would be running to respond to all the gaps and other areas of concern. There's also strategic areas that I needed to deal with myself, like for instance, the CFO, by virtue of the Act, reports directly to me as an accounting officer. But at the present moment, that arrangement is otherwise. And I'm changing it, because I want to hold the CFO directly accountable in terms of his function, and that it take charge of the sound financial administration and procurement of the organization. So that is how we're going to clear it. There's one area that is actually hitting us hard, which is the flow. We do not have a formal contract management strategy in the organization. And one of the biggest challenges are lying in that area. I have instructed the process already of designing this particular strategy and also execute it as part of our response to the outcome of the SCOPA, the accountability. So this action plan, it's gonna be a permanent arrangement, how we're gonna deal with these matters, but there's also some investigations that will be flowing from this action plan. They include the picture of these people who went somewhere with trophies and stuff, because we do have policies that are governing our procurement processes, and which does not necessarily allow any additional activity that is not sanctioned. And then we then said we need to look into this matter, and there will be a report that will be provided to me, and where there's any transgression, we will be taking the necessary action. The third question that I think I need to answer myself is the one of Brigadier Pett. The question was, where is she? She's still in the employment. She's still working. I need to be very honest about it, and I can't tell lies to the committee. Fortunately or unfortunately, I had very little time to deal with it before I come to the committee. But I had a discussion with the acting divisional commissioner. I just wanted to know whether have we complied with the instructions of the portfolio committee as we're coming here. I would then try to explain, maybe I should start with an apology that we did not comply with the instruction. But our explanation is one, if the portfolio committee says go and suspend someone, we need to do it through the regulatory framework. It's not for the portfolio committee to decide or tell us which policy you must go and use, but it is then our responsibility to process the instruction of the portfolio committee within that policy framework. And then I'll explain the scenario as follows. The money was found in the account, but the money belonged to the Secret Service environment. The mandate, firstly, the mandate to initiate an investigation is lying with the Inspector General. So there's 3 types of investigations, and I want to explain them correctly. It's the Inspector General's mandate. He must commission, that is, the investigation into the money. Secondly, there's a criminal case opened. Now, with the criminal case, the mandate is ours. And what is supposed to happen immediately after a criminal case is opened? The divisional commissioner, who's the head, must request for a factual report from the investigation side. Immediately he received the factual report, he must appoint a departmental investigator in terms of the discipline regulations to conduct a discipline regulation investigation. Immediately the discipline regulation investigation is presented to him with findings and recommendations, then he must consider suspension. Now, in this particular case, I then discovered that we did not immediately write the Inspector General to commence the investigation. Yes, that is an oversight, and that's why I'm apologizing. Now, in our discussion, I then instructed the divisional commissioner and said, write the letter now, let us sign it to go to the Inspector General and indicate that there has been a process that's a bid and calling with regard to Secret Service money found in someone's account. Can you commission an urgent investigation because this matter is already under the direction of the committee? I think that letter has been forwarded to the Inspector General already. The second one, I said he must then appoint a departmental investigator, which he did immediately, I think it's 3 days ago. That investigation has commenced. Once we receive the investigation, there will be a consideration of suspension. We will give the report back to the committee. There was no intention to undermine the instruction of the committee.
General. Just
Yes.
to follow up from Honorable Mamula on this issue. Thank you.
These news are disturbing, Chairperson. General Sistol, who was supposed to write a letter to the intelligent, to the Inspector General. And from August, you said the letter was written 3 days before. From August till November, I must say November because this thing was last week. We asked this thing last week. What was happening? Was this Brigadier Petla left alone, or she is untouchable? That is why I want to say to you, thank you for the president. I want to say thanks for the president to appoint you as a national commissioner, because it seems as if we know now where we are going. It's confusing. From August, there was no letter, there was nothing. They told us that General Litwaba is investigating. Up until now, there's nothing, until we asked this question last week. Whose mistake was that? And what steps are you going to take? But you are new. I'm just putting you into the corner. But there must be something that must be done on this thing, General. Thank you.
Right, General, you can continue. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Maybe let me start by saying there's something that was done, firstly by the acting divisional commissioner. He did write to the then acting national commissioner and to the committee. And his request was this matter be dealt with by the Joint Standing Committee, the committee that deals with the intelligence-related matters, because that is the committee also that where they account on the Secret Service account money. But what we corrected was that, yes, it's correct to write that particular letter, but we have an obligation to respond to the portfolio committee with regard to the action that we've taken. That's when I said, let us write the Inspector General to conduct the investigation. Then the Inspector General will give us his report, but he will also report to the Joint Standing Committee. So I think that is what was the gap. The other investigation by General Litwaba, it's still continuing, it's close to be finalized. But he will add, with your permission, Chair.
Maybe just on that one, General, remember, we of course we appreciate the action with regard to the IG, but the other material issue was the issuing of security clearances without authorization and the printing of those. That is really a huge concern to this committee, and we've put it on the table previously, and that's a real issue that should also. So we just want to have confirmation that that issue is also addressed, because if we have a situation where in SAPS or any of the security agencies people allegedly print security clearance, top secret security without the proper vetting procedures, it creates a Pandora box of irregularity. So we need also assurance that that issue will be pursued and that we will get a written report in due course. General Kobo.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. The issue of the issuing of those 3 security clearances to General Mpushan, Brigadier Petle, and Brigadier Mazui. I wrote to the IG of Intelligence, and he's investigating that matter as we speak. It is being attended to by IGI's office. Thank you, Chair.
The problem is, with respect, National Commissioner and Divisional Commissioner, of course there must be also SAPS consequent management. So I presume in terms also of the issuing of the certificates, there will also be internal investigation. Thank you.
I agree with the Honorable Chair. We will be looking into taking steps on that one. I can promise that.
Okay, Chair, sorry, let me put it also further right. General Dwaba was specifically appointed to deal with the SAPS consequence management around this whole matter. And the moment we receive his report, that's where we're going to act on all of them. But the directive of the chair was that the moment the General Dwaba investigation is finalized, we must provide a report to the committee. But on this, around the whole subject, we are also going to sit and scrutinize everything to see, are we complying 100%? What is it that is left out? So that we put all the pieces together, because the SAPS consequence management must be a consolidated report that will lead us to the relevant actions to be taken. But we'll provide the report. Thank you.
Honorable Ramadlakane and then Honorable Mabele on the same issue. You can just add.
I wanted to correct maybe the National Commissioner briefing with the former interim acting National Commissioner and to Parliament he spoke of General Dwaba. On my own volition, I checked with General Dwaba, National Commissioner and Honorable Chair. And when I double-checked with them, Litwaba, I thought it was the DPCI one. And she said no. Then I went back to General Nkomo of the detective. She gave me the name of Brigadier Shabalala. It's Brigadier Shabalala who is handling this matter. I'm sorry, National Commissioner, if you were briefed about Litwaba, because it was brought to the General Litwaba. It is Brigadier Shabalala from the detective who is handling this issue of the money, and he gave me the preliminary report, and I'm awaiting the full report from him so that I take a further step on that one. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Ramadlakane, Honorable Mbele, Honorable Bolabatsi on the same issue, and Honorable Mula. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I'm a bit. Initially, I was going to ask something else now, but this another revelation. Chair, the acting National Commissioner told the committee about the investigation led by the Provincial Commissioner of Limpopo. And if my memory serves me correctly, that name is Litwaba. Now, actually, the follow-up later about that, he then told the committee that he's considering a report. Now, which is the report coming out of General Dwaba's investigation. The general here says, when General Dwaba completes his investigation, we will then take action, basically report to the committee about that. Now, I don't know, General, now, because the impression left to the committee. In fact, we asked, can we get that report? Can we be briefed on that report? On the basis that the General Acting National Commissioner was saying he's considering it. But now General Stoller, you're saying that report is not done. When is done? Now it's not clear when is it going to be done, this very report. But now you are being contradicted. Actually, General Dwaba is not dealing with it. It's someone else is dealing with this investigation. Chair, now I probably think that we're not going to get to the bottom of this. It's maybe the general and the general to fix this thing. But as a committee, we are awaiting a report. And when will that report be? General, if you say when he is done. Now it's 3 months down the line since this matter was under the investigation by General Dwaba. What is can it take a year to finalize this report? When is he going to be finalizing it? There is no date. I'm a bit worried that we're having this discussion in this way. So can you just give us an assurance, General, that this report, if it's not done, now it will be done, this December is going to be complete, we will get the report in January. At least we know that this is what's going to happen. The when, we never know when the when is. Now, my starting point, I started with some statement about the honesty. Now, does it mean that the previous general was misinforming this committee? Because if he did, then there is a problem. You know what happens when something like this happens. And for my sake, I don't necessarily suggesting anything that, but you know, there's a Rule 227. You know, I did allude to this Rule 227 then already, when we were having this kind of discussion across the table. And then we parked it because we didn't want to go down that road. And I'm not suggesting that at the moment. But I just want General Stoller to come back to the committee chair. Were we misled? Were we told the facts? What are the facts? And then based on that report, then we can pursue other processes.
Members, just short, I want to finalize because we're going to break in 5 minutes for tea and then we can deal with others. Honorable Bele.
Thanks, Chair. I'm actually 85% covered by Honorable Ramatlakane, so I'm just going to make 2 very quick points. The one is already that sense of alacrity and optimism is starting to slowly fade and dissolve about a new chapter for the SAPS, because this is not something that should be this complicated. It's simply about the facts: names, dates, places, times, right? And following processes. So with this whole Ledwaba versus Shabalala thing that has come up, either it was Ledwaba initially and then it was changed to Shabalala, or it was never Ledwaba, it was somebody else, or Shabalala, in which case the information the committee got was misleading and false. And that then becomes an entirely different issue in itself, and I'd be the first to second the honourable member for a Rule 227 inquiry. But because we're not doing that now, and I don't want to derail the committee agenda, can I just make an appeal to you, Chair, that at least in this meeting, we find a way of outlining clear expectations from the NATCOM and the SAPS senior management team about what we need by when, and then if it's not the case, then we need to take stern steps, because I'm gonna start getting deja vu all over again. Yeah.
On Mullah, you covered?
Thank you, Chairperson. What I want to say to General Stolle and General Ngobo, please do something about this Brigadier Petle, because this Brigadier Petle is causing havoc in SAPS. She's doing whatever she likes. She opened cases, she threatened people, she do this and that. We want Brigadier Petle to be suspended because of issuing that security clearance. About money and everything, you are going to investigate. Please, when we come back, we need a clear report, not contradicting General Stolle and you contradicting each other like you did last with General Liseja. We don't want that. And that's why last I asked question, where does the CI reporting to? Because if you are contradicting each other, which means you are not working together. General Stolle, as the new national commissioner, we want stability in SAPS. Please. Thank you very much.
It's Honorable Abatsi, and then we're going to, because we want to finalize this point, yes, we can't belabor the whole day, yes. Honorable Abatsi, are you covered? Mabija, are you covered?
Yes, I just wanted to say something. You know, when people live, each and every person has got its own characteristics as a character. Therefore, there are some you find that they come into a job for certain purposes unknown to them and those who put them there. So here in this committee, when we deal with issues, we don't cater for such planted people on positions for certain purposes beyond our knowledge as a committee. We focus on the mandate vested on us, and we need SAPS to work strongly hand in hand with us to have control according to law with all the sections you are working with. We do not want here to be talking about phehla for the whole decade. Le motshaba eng una mene phehla una leng Ngobo. Sorry to say Ngobo, General Ngobo. What is it that General Phehla is having? Brigadier. Your Brigadier Phehla is having that. It's like when she sneezes, the whole of that section catches cold, to an extent that people do not want to take action on the things that they are supposed to take action that has got to do with Lieutenant Phehla, Brigadier Phehla. I'm sorry, these levels, I'm not in SAPS, I don't know them, and I'll never know them because, you know, there are these changes, and a lot of these medals. So we were never orientated when we come here. We come here to carry the mandate to save the people of South Africa. Therefore, please, if there are people, not in CI only, with all the sections that you work with, National NETCOM, just do your work. If need be, according to law, you put them aside. If ever you see that this is not what I'm accountable for, a person who's like this. We don't want planted officials to work with. Thank you.
Honorable members, we're going to take now a 10-minute tea break. We'll come back, Honorable Ramatlakane, and then Honorable, thank you.